What's going on, everyone? Coach Aaron here, back again from my crappy laptop webcam with another video to help you dominate on the platform. Alright everyone, what's going on? Back again with another video. I was talking with one of my athletes today about some of the finer points of the squat and mostly about the elbow position during the squat and what it should be doing during the actual squat while you're descending and ascending. So we're going back and forth with videos trying to show him how I want him to adjust as far as where to grip the bar and what to do with the elbows. But I figured I'd just throw a little video together here to explain that, and the same concept can be used for the other parts, basically anything in the upper body, whether it's the head, wrist, elbow, shoulders, that kind of stuff in the squat to help you become more efficient in your squat. So I grabbed some clips that I put together of good squats and bad squats. So let's go over it. All right, so I tried to shoot here from behind so that you can kind of get an idea of what's going on with the elbows here, because that's what we're mostly focusing on. But like I said, the same concept can be used for things like your hands, your wrists, your shoulders, because they're all gonna affect that bar position and whether the bar is moving during the lift. So what happens oftentimes is lifters will move their elbows either forward or backwards during the squat. A lot of times they'll move it forward to try and compensate for their torso falling over, or try and compensate for the lift is hard, so they're trying to roll the bar further down their back to get it closer to the hips and get it farther back behind the toes, more towards the midfoot and the heels. So as we play this here, first I'm showing a bad example of the elbows coming forward on the way down. All right, so I did a few reps here of just the elbows going down, elbows going forward on the way down. So you can see in this bottom position that I really throw my elbows forward, obviously to try and exaggerate the position. You can see now how the bar is moved to my wrist. My wrists are a lot more bent. That's gonna have issues with the forearm and in the elbow. Also, by bringing the elbows forward, you can see that I've lost my shelf. So now there's a possibility the bar can roll down my back, or I have to use my hands to really hold the bar from falling down my back. And it's possible that depending on how much you roll your shoulders forward and your flexibility and stuff like that, that now your shoulders are going through protraction and retraction, or basically you're rounding your shoulders and shoulder blades forward by throwing the elbows forward too much. And then when you bring the elbows back up, then you're bringing that shoulder and shoulder blade back into position and bringing that shelf again. So you can see as I bring the elbows back up towards the top, then you can see here now I've created my shelf again. My shoulder blades are squeezed together again because of that elbow position at the end is matching what was there at the beginning. So we'll play it again. As I'm descending, the elbows go forward. So now I'm losing tightness in the upper back. I'm losing my shelf. The bar is rolling down my back and up my back. The bar is moving in my hands. The wrists are bending and straightening. So they're all things that you do not want to do. All right, so now we're gonna look at the elbows not moving. So here I'm really trying to focus on keeping my elbows exactly where they were at the start throughout the entire squat and maintaining it at the end. So we'll watch that again. So now you can see in this bottom position, I tried to keep my elbows exactly where they were. Everything in the upper body here is frozen. You're stuck in place. And that way I'm gonna be able to maintain the shelf, maintain the bar position, maintain the wrist angle that I want. I can pull down the bar, maintain that lat tightness, and torso angle stays the same. And now all that's moving are my ankles, my knees, and my hips, since those are the things we want moving in the squat to work those muscles around those joints. Everything in the upper body we wanna try and maintain. And like I said, this concept goes beyond just the elbows, because obviously you don't want too much flexion and extension in your spine during the movement. You don't want, like I said, wrist flexion and extension. You don't want to be moving your head and neck too much. All these are gonna mess you up as far as being able to maintain tightness, maintain the isometric hold of those muscles that you want to do. When you're squeezing the bar, you're squeezing with your forearm muscles and holding the bar in place. When you're, like I said, when you're pulling down on the bar, you're flexing those lats and holding the bar in place. You want to isometrically hold all these things. You don't want to be moving your head too much, throwing your body weight forward or back, or throwing your point that you're using as a reference point out, and then you have difficulty maybe maintaining balance or knowing what depth is, that kind of stuff. So this is a good example of where we're trying to keep all those things in place. Shoulder blades are squeezed together, we're maintaining the elbow angle, we're squeezing the bar, we're maintaining the wrists, and then we're just focusing on moving the ankles, knees, and hips to do the squat. So next example, sometimes people will throw the elbows forward as they're coming up. So they're trying to think of, maybe like I said before in a previous video about cues, I'll put the little link to that above, but maybe they're using the wrong cue of throwing the elbows forward, which is more of a way of thinking about the movement, of not having the elbows go too high. You're trying to keep the elbows more pointed down, or similar to your torso angle, but you want to keep it in place. But some people take that cue out of place, they start throwing their elbows forward a lot. So it could be using a cue improperly. It could be a way as they're trying to get their chest up. So maybe they caved already on the way down, maybe they weren't bracing correctly, and so they collapsed, and so now they're trying to compensate for that by throwing the elbows forward and trying to pull the chest up. And the other thing, like I said earlier, is by also moving the elbows forward and bringing the bar down your back, then it's possible that you can then finish the movement because you're rolling the bar down your back, getting it closer to the hips, possibly getting it further back. So you can try and force your way into a more efficient position as far as the hips being used in the movement. But that could lead to the bar falling off your back, or maybe it's just bending your wrist back and you're gonna get wrist pain, you're gonna get forearm pain, you're gonna get elbow pain. So it might be a short-term solution for that one rep to kind of fight your way through and get it, but it's a long-term problem of bad technique, and then you're ingraining that bad motor pattern, and you don't want to do that. So here's an example of the elbows going forward on the way up. So obviously I tried to exaggerate this of really throwing it forward, but we'll go back and we'll watch that again. So you can see here again, really pushing those elbows forward to exaggerate the movement. And you can see I've pretty much lost my entire shelf. My shoulders here on the very end are rolled forward. On this left side especially is not even touching the bar anymore. I've lost some of that shoulder blade retraction. The shoulder blade is being squeezed together. And again, you can see the bar has moved in my hand. It's moved more towards the fingers. The wrists are bent. So this is gonna cause issues. Maybe the fingers hurting, the wrist hurting, the elbows hurting, maybe even the shoulders hurting, lack of tightness in the upper body, and possibly losing the bar, dumping it back. So these are things we don't wanna do. And the same thing applies regardless of your grip width. So here I'm using a narrow or moderate grip, depending on what you consider narrow or moderate, depending on what you use for your grip. But I also have here an example of a wider grip. And you can see again with the wider grip, if this is my elbow angle where I can keep the shelf, you see this nice big shelf here, and I'm squeezing the bar tight and everything is tight, squeeze, hold in place isometrically. We want to maintain that. But here again, I'm showing on the way down how the elbows go forward. So here's another one. Elbows are going forward on the way down. And you can see in this bottom position now I've lost that nice shelf. Now it's pretty much completely gone. And again, you can see the bars moved into the fingers, the wrists are bent back. This is not a good position. So regardless of the grip, you want to be maintaining everything upper body basically locked into place. So here's a better example of where I'm really trying to hold my elbows in place during the movement. So here you can see we have a better shelf set up. We have the better wrist position set up. You can see how the bar is deep in the palm of my hands, and then everything is tight, and all we're moving again, ankles, knees, hips. On the way down and the way up. All right, and then just to show you an example of a heavier squat, so I was just demonstrating there with the empty bar with the rack that I have in my room, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about elbow position. I was really exaggerating it, showing extreme positions because there was an empty bar. It may not be that much with a bigger weight, but it's still an issue if it is an excessive amount. So I pulled up a video of Bill McCarthy here doing a pretty heavy squat for him, and you can really see how good his setup is once he's walked out and he's getting his air, how he does that efficiently, and then how his squat on the descent is very efficient, and on the ascent it's very efficient. So here we go, we'll watch it. Boom, that's it. So we'll watch it a few times here. So you can see that when he takes his breath in, he's barely moving anything. You don't want to be really moving your head. You don't want to be moving your elbows, shrugging your shoulders like that. So his shoulders and his upper back maybe goes up very little as he's taking his breath, but then he pulls everything down tight again. So now he's pulled that rib cage down. He's braced tight against his belt. He's taking his air in. He has his elbows locked into place. And as he's going down, you can see that these elbows stay in place. Boom. And then bottom position, the elbows are in the same place that they were at the beginning. The shelf is maintained. The bar's in the palm of his hands where he wants it. It's not rolled back or anything like that. And then on the way up, again, you can see the elbows stay in place, torso angle stays in place, head stays in place, and he fights through and he locks it out. So we can watch that again. What I'll do is I'll see if I can do slower motion on this. Speed, we'll go slower, and we'll watch that again. Barely any movement to take his breath, and everything stays in place as he's doing his squat. So this is what you want to be trying to mimic. Okay, so like I said, I'm talking about the elbows here mostly, but these are things that you want to apply for, like I said, pretty much everything in the upper body. So we want to minimize movement of the head, shoulders, hands, wrists, elbow, spine, rib cage, whatever you want to think about. All those things should be locked into place when you take your breath and you're about to descend, and then during the entire descent, and then on the ascent, you want to try and maintain those positions. Just like that. So you're using your ankles, knees, and hips to move through your full range of motion and use the muscles surrounding those joints to stand up. And then when you have the entire upper body tight and locked into place, all your muscles are contracted and being held isometrically, and that's going to allow the force that you're pushing into the ground to go through your body and transfer into the bar and lift the bar up. If those things are moving, especially if your spine is moving or on the front side, your rib cage, your abs are moving, but also to a certain degree, your upper back is moving, then some of the energy you're applying is going to be used into displacing those joints or displacing those muscles. So if your back is rounding, then some of the force that you're applying is being lost into your back rounding until you hit a point again where nothing is moving, and now force can efficiently travel again, and then you will move everything up. You'll see sometimes when some people will squat really breaks down when they come out of the hole. It's like they'll try and bounce out of the hole and try and apply force, but what happens is their back starts rounding and their upper back starts rounding and forward, and they start tipping forward, and it's like they're not really moving as much. Even though they're applying maximum force, they're barely even moving or not moving because they're losing their position. They're becoming more and more inefficient, so that force is not allowing them to move up. Then kind of once maybe they hit the end range of motion of those joints, or maybe they're able to kind of achieve their bracing again, then maybe they can fight through. Or maybe they don't achieve that bracing and they hit the end range of motion of their joints, they get injured, or they hit the end range of motion of their joints, they don't get injured, but the amount of force that they're applying is not enough to move that bar in that position that they're now in, where they're very inefficient. They might be forward of the toes, everything like that. Overall idea here, as I said, is to lock everything into place in the upper body. We want to minimize the elbow movement during the lift, minimize the wrist movement during the lift, minimize the head movement during the lift. And if you can also do that while you're setting up and taking your breath and everything like that, minimizing the movement of those things, then that would be good too. Because once you unrack the bar, you should already be having the bar exactly where you want it, your grip exactly where you want it, and everything tight. You don't want to walk out and have this load on your back and then try and achieve the position that you want, moving the bar around or moving your wrist around, moving your elbows to get to the starting position you want. That's a stable position. You want to set everything beforehand. Then when you unrack, all you're doing is setting up your feet and away from the rack. And then once you get the squat command, all you're trying to do is take air and embrace without messing up that stable position you created, and then doing your squat where you're using those muscles around those joints that I mentioned, and then finishing the lift. All right, so hopefully that helps you all out. If you have any questions about what I've been discussing here, any other finer points about the squat, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll put in the link to that cues video in the description as well, so you can go watch that, learn some more about cues and what to do and what not to do when you hear other people talk about different cues. All right, hopefully that helps you out, and I'll see you guys next time.